Cannabis and Schizophrenia. I just saw a Canada journalist I like say that there was absolutely no link. And when I hear something that stupid, I have to come out here and correct it. I'm Lex Pelger. I'm sponsored by the Cannabis Health and Research Initiative to talk about cannabinoid science, and they will pay you $100 to talk about your use of our favorite plant. And I should say that all the views I express here are mine. They just pay me to yap about this stuff and get word out about the studies, but the views are from me, not from the study. First, let me say that the evidence is clear that there are strong links between the use of cannabis and later developing schizophrenia, as well as cannabis exacerbating the positive and the negative symptoms of schizophrenia. And one of the things that makes this clear is the different types of evidence pointing in this direction. It's not just clinical studies and reviews of those clinical studies. There's also public health data that points in the same way, such as the infamous Denmark study that says probably 15% of the cases of schizophrenia in that country can be linked to cannabis use. Then you have case reports of doctors reporting things like this, and you also have what you see with your own eyes. It's hard to imagine any cannabis journalist in the field not having seen these stories. I have certainly seen these stories. You can find them on the forums from people who are sharing what happened for them. And lastly, there's a lot of preclinical evidence in animal models. And yes, I know animal models are not great for schizophrenia, but they're all pointing in the same direction. You also see the same thing in teens. Teens who are using more cannabis at a younger age are more likely to develop schizophrenia later in life. Teen brains are probably the most at risk. That being said, I think everyone in the field will agree this is only happening to people who already have predispositions to schizophrenia in their family. So cannabis is not causing their schizophrenia, but it is uncovering it, and it might not have otherwise been uncovered without copious early uses of cannabis. Just like people might not develop schizophrenia if they didn't have a very bad psychedelic trip one night, or have the death of a family member, some other kind of psychic trauma happen to them and allowed their schizophrenic symptoms to emerge. Also of note, you can see very clearly in the evidence that synthetic cannabinoids do this, and they do it worse because they are greater activators of the CB1 receptors. And the CB1 receptors are some of the most widespread receptors in your brain. Your cannabinoid receptors are all over the place, just not in the spinal cord, so you can't overdose in that kind of way. But the idea of greatly pushing these buttons in a way harder than we ever have is leading to more schizophrenic symptoms is another sign of what's happening here. And the last line of evidence that I probably find the most convincing is all of the very pro-cannabis clinicians and psychiatrists I see giving talks at these conferences where they say, here's the cases I see that are very clearly linked to cannabis use. These are doctors who do not want it to be the fault of the plant. They like the plant, but they also see what happens in the real world, especially with the rise of synthetic cannabinoids. Then on the contrary side, you see lovely case reports about doctors using low levels of cannabis to help with psychotic symptoms. That can also happen. It can be a tool that people use. There's also very good evidence about CBD being somewhat helpful, as well as PEA, the endocannabinoid that you can freely buy online. There's also some preclinical evidence on the help from CBG, THCV, as well as the endocannabinoid oleoethanol amide, which gives your endocannabinoid of satiation. So in conclusion, cannabinoids and schizophrenia is a double-edged sword. Large amounts of THC can seem to bring it out in some people, but low amounts can be helpful for them. Is this a reason to ban the plant? Absolutely not, but it is a public health message that is really important. If you have close family members with schizophrenia, you should be very cautious about using the cannabinoids or the psychedelics. If you have any personal anecdotes to share, I would love to hear them, and if you have any questions, please ask.